Hello and welcome. Welcome to the Earth, Sea, Love podcast. This podcast is for and about women of colour and our relationship with nature. Hosted by me, Cherie Mack. The Earth, Sea, Love podcast is committed to exploring the experiences of women of colour with Mother Nature. We want to provide spaces where the hidden voices in the environmental and conservation conversations can explore their relationship with the natural world. Inspired by our time spent outdoors, we amplify the voices of women of colour, our stories, our conversations, interviews, photography, writing, and artwork. We'll be exploring our legacies, histories, and memories which have had an influence and effect upon how we perceive ourselves within the natural world and within the environmental and climate justice movements. Welcome to the Earth, Sea, Love podcast. The Earth, Sea, Love podcast has been made possible by the funding from National Lottery Heritage Fund. Hey, listeners. Cherie here. Cherie Mack, your host for the Earth, Sea, Love podcast. And today I'm bringing you episode 5. And before we get into that, I just want to say thank you. And you've blown my mind with how much support you have given to this new podcast. The number of people who have listened and then reached out and said, shared their love for it and their appreciation for the podcast. And it's like, wow, you have these ideas, and if you persevere, you do follow them through and bring them to fruition. And being a creative, when that happens, you just have to close your eyes and drop it. Close your eyes and press that button and just try and forget it. Because if you worry about it and get anxious about it, you can't move forward really, and you just stagnate. So there was that, in a sense, of that dropping the 4 episodes together and thinking, all right, now the damage is done, let's move on, let's not look. And yeah, we had a launch party. A socially distancing launch party. It was all virtual. And you listened. You logged on, downloaded, got it into your ears, and I just so appreciate your presence here. And as I've said someplace else, it's just like we're having these conversations, me and other women of colour, about our relationships with nature. And it's so personal. And in the conversations we learn so much about each other. But you as listeners are listening, and the stories are resonating with you. You're recognizing yourself in those conversations of nature connection, and that's why I just think it's so beautiful, because we are connecting through sharing these stories, you listening to these stories, and then reaching back to us and saying, hey, I'm enjoying it, this is really good, and thank you. And so, yeah, it's such a beautiful thing that we're creating here, and I would just like to thank you. So I'm recording this intro Sunday night. The evening clouds are slowly passing by and they're tinged with a little bit of pink and orange. And I'm starting this recording just after a whole host or flock of seagulls have just been over our house squawking. I don't know if it was like the evening procession of saying, hey, it's time to let's get to our nests, let's get to some crags or and chill out for the night. But they were so going for it, and I just love it. I just love hearing them. The last time I heard them, I was actually in the sea on my back looking up into the sky, and they were flying over, and I could see their white bodies and their grey tinges, but their wing span, it's just amazing. It's just like, I am so in awe of seagulls. I mean, when I was a kid, I used to be scared of them, and I think that's been passed on, the idea that they were brutes and bullies and nicking food off anyone and any bird. But now I have a bit of a respect for them because they can survive. They survive on rubbish, basically. They survive on our throwaways. And yeah, they sometimes get some fresh fish, but how they scavenge and grow to such a size through it. So yeah, and their sound is so much part of my everyday, and if it wasn't there, it would be so quiet and so strange without them. Yeah. Okay, enough of my love of seagulls. Let's move on. I'm here to share with you episode 5 from the Earthsea Love podcast, and it's a conversation that I am having with Hiranya de Alwis Jayasinghe. I think I pronounced that right. Please accept my apologies now, Hiranya, for getting it wrong. But yeah, this is a good conversation in the sense that we went deep into the program premise, in the sense of looking into our histories and heritage and legacies and how much they have an influence on our present moment, our present bodies out there in nature. And we actually explore religion and spirituality and creativity in nature, and big issues really, but in such an accessible way, and I mean accessible for me, because a number of things were clarified for me. I mean, that thing about the difference between religion and spirituality. But yeah, it was just such a beautiful conversation where we just riff off, in a sense, about the time frame, because this was still recorded at the end of May, so we were still in lockdown, and how that affects was having on our lives, and how we were taking care of ourselves. And again, it's coming out and we're still in lockdown, and some of us more so than others. But it's how time is changing, or has changed through the last 4 months of the pandemic, and uprisings and change. There is change that is happening, and I think I'm feeling that in the sense that it's the summer holidays. The kids are off from school, and usually during the summer holidays, like every day sort of like morphs into each other, and there's sort of like a longevity to each day. You're aimlessly not doing much, aren't you? You're relaxing and resting. And there's still the element of that, but the difference is because there was 3 months or 4 months being off school before we got to the summer holidays. There's a tension I know there's a tension within me of trying to keep that spirit of the summer holidays. You know, usually it's a case of, hey, nearly at the summer holidays, you know, count down the days. And that wasn't there this time because we were already off the clock. But I do want to try and keep some of that magic. And I think this is for Miss Ella because this is her summer holidays. She's still a kid. And I want to try and keep that magic of, you know, staying up late and getting up early, going out on bike rides, getting into the sea. But at the same time, there's that need and want to acknowledge how time has changed because of what we've been through and what we are continuing to go through. And I don't want to say it, but it usually is the case as a Libran. I'm trying to find that balance. And some days it's achieved, and some days it's not. But what I am practicing also is that gentleness and kindness and grace towards myself. Because we are all human and we are all living through difficult times. So let's just cut each other some slack. I bring to you this next episode and I hope you enjoy it. And I should also say this podcast can be downloaded from all your usual platforms where you get your podcasts from. But really, you can just go to our website at sealove.com and there is the podcast page where all the episodes are to enjoy again and again and again. Because that's it. These conversations are so jam-packed with issues and themes and enlightenment that you will want to go back and listen again and again and again. And because I know I've been enjoying listening to these conversations again. And okay, so enough from me. Enjoy. Bye for now. I've been looking forward to seeing your face and having this conversation, like a glimmer of light in these troubled times. How are you?
I'm really well, to be honest. I feel slightly bad saying it because I know that it's very different for lots of different people, but for us, I think it's just been a wonderful blessing to slow down, to spend time at home.
Yeah.
To at least at our weekends not be kind of, you know, we had screen-free Saturdays, so not kind of. It's really interesting, like relearning, like time, not time as in like 10 a.m. time, but time as in, oh, this feels like morning, and this is definitely mid-afternoon. I don't know exactly when.
Yeah.
And I kind of got that when I did my kind of long hike, and it's lovely to sort of relearn it.
Yeah.
And
it's like dropping down into a deeper level of time, if you know. Yeah, sure. Not that surface superficial way of the time, or this time I've got to be here, that sort of thing. So yeah, we have had that opportunity. I am grateful for that opportunity to slow down. Yeah, even though it's not a good circumstances that we have gotten this, but I do definitely agree with you. It almost gets me to reevaluate my life and how I'd want to, well, it's changed my life and how I'd like to carry that onwards. And I'll probably be swimming against the tide or going against the grain, because I think a lot of people around me just want to get back to work and get back to normal, whatever that is. But I've just seen this as a really, I have said it has been a gift, the idea of having this time and having space at home. And I say that and I'm aware of the number of people who have died and who's this affected. But, you know, keeping myself safe and keeping my people safe, that's what I've been doing. That's my responsibility. And then to actually spend this time to work on myself, I wouldn't be the authentic human being that I'm trying to be if I didn't use this time to work on myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
And it's something that we're planning to do, actually, just do a little post-it session of like, okay, what from our old life do we miss and we want to put into our new life? What from our old life are we really glad we're not having to do and we want to avoid in our new life? And then what's been good about the current time and what's not been so good about the current time, and just really craft our lives. And
Yes.
I understand that there's a level of privilege in being able to do that, but I definitely think there's always value in thinking about it.
Definitely.
Being conscious.
Yeah, being conscious and, you know, admitting, there is privilege about that. I mean, you know, I've just been saying to Alan that I've been stepping away from the news or social media, and I know that is a privilege to actually bury my head a little. But then I know when I come up, because like last night, it was another sleepless night because I was on Twitter, that sort of thing. I know when I come up, I know that I can't not just do it little by little. You know, it's like I'm all in, and that's not good for me because I know that it just affects my blood pressure, my anxiety, and the whole shebang. But then there's also that part of me that thinking I should be witnessing or I should be speaking up, that I can't turn a blind eye in the sense. And I'm talking about what's happening in USA, but then also what's happening over here, because things are escalating over here as well. Sorry, I'm going down that dark hole. It must be because I haven't slept. But I have been out and run, and I have been in the sea. So that has given me some energy. But yes, so have you been having to work from home then, or
I've been working from home. I like last year I was working like 2 weeks from home up in Edinburgh and then coming to London and doing 2 weeks in the office. So it's not a completely new experience for me, and there's many things that I really appreciate about it. Kind of, again, being able to craft my own life, being able to step away and in a break and sing. Like, I couldn't do that if I was at the office.
No.
Being able to go out in the garden and like water some plants.
Because you were saying when we were in contact that you were like, you must have had that foresight to get a new place with a garden. So, you know, when it was lockdown, that you had some greenery around you. Have you been tending it? Have you got some stuff planted?
Yeah, well, I mean, basically, as the same day that pretty much as soon as Boris announced lockdown, we went and bought seeds and compost. That was our panic buy, basically. We're
not
like,
toilet
okay,
roll, not pasta.
This is what we need.
I
don't know what's
that.
happening. We need vegetables.
Yeah. But also not just feeding your gut with food, but also feeding your soul. You know, the partaking in the activity.
Yeah, and it's the first time I've ever done it, and it's been so exciting, like just seeding them kind of inside and then putting them outside, and like then like letting them out in the day but bringing them in at night, just like little babies.
Yeah.
And then yesterday the broccoli and the carrot was like really crammed in together. We've just used some like storage boxes because we're renting, so we can't put it in the ground. So I was thinking, okay, I really need to give them a bit more space and dig out some and put them back in like a grow bags. And I was astonished and excited. I've dug up the carrots, and there's these tiny little it's not even a carrot, it's like an orange string at the bottom. But it was so exciting.
It's the potential of what it will become, though, isn't it?
Totally. I just didn't expect that, and it
was. I like that. I love that. So you're growing them in boxes. So these crates, are they like raised beds, that sort of thing?
No, nothing like that. I mean, they're just like storage crates out on our decking.
Oh, I like that idea, because we've just got a yard. And I've just been waiting for B&Q to die down, because they have been open, but the queues, and I'm just thought, to get some, because I do want to. I mean, I've got house plants, but I want some outside.
Definitely.
So yeah,
I think just being we've been really creative with, there's this plastic container, let's seed in that, and we don't need pots, and we've got storage containers, let's seed in that, and I think that's something really lovely about just simplifying and realizing that actually we don't. Yeah, we need compost, but there's loads of things that we can improvise on.
yeah, and I think that's what another thing that's come out of this time in our homes and lockdown is this make do and mend, isn't it? It's a case of like, we don't need to buy anything new. If we did, it would take months to get here, or it's probably run out. Let's just see what we can use, and that is becoming creative, isn't it? More creative. I mean, I know you're already creative, but we'll get to that bit soon. You rightly reminded me what is in the show notes, what this podcast is all about. And it's exploring women of colour's relationship with nature through legacies, histories, and memories. And you reminded me of that. And I'm so pleased that you did, because that was a nice thing to hang it on. And we're just going to, they're going to be rounding about in the conversation, but we're not going to just like name them or whatever. But I think what else you pulled out was those themes. And I think those themes were really important. Oh, the other thing, just one before we get into it. Have you been taking care of yourself during lockdown? I know that you said you've had your garden and that it's been nice working at home, but have you been doing any other self-care things to keep yourself safe and well and grounded? What have you been doing as your self-care practices?
I think in many ways it's been easier for me, like in terms of self-care. So the big thing that I really appreciate doing is like meditating twice a day, in the morning, in the evening, through like the form of meditation I use is Christian meditation that sort of was brought back to life by John Main, and that I find so useful and I've noticed the difference when I don't do it. And in normal life, I might try and do it before running out the door, or try and do it on the tube, and then it's fine. I think it's part of being able to have attention is not get distracted by the noise on the tube whilst I'm doing it. But it's certainly easier to do it at home. And I've sort of been sitting outside, having my breakfast, a cup of tea, just doing a little bit of sort of gentle stretches, doing my meditation, and then reading in the morning, and that's been really lovely. I think in the evenings has been a bit more difficult, and we're trying to get into a habit of like just putting in our diaries 5:30 we're going to do some yoga, because that can be like working can then bleed into the evening if we're not careful, I think.
Yeah, that's good. That is healthy. I must say it's a practice, isn't it? And it's, like everything in life is a practice, but it's good that you've got some in there, because, I do feel that we as women are a bit on the back foot in terms of taking care of ourselves. We take care of others first and forget maybe or neglect ourselves. So I'm really pleased to hear that you have been looking after yourself and it's been going well. That's good.
I think that balance between like breathing in and breathing out is really, really important. And whether that's breathing in the news, whether that's breathing out, like just having that balance and feeding ourselves a healthy diet for our minds as much as our bodies is is so important. And the screen-free Saturday, we only started in lockdown, and that has been amazing for our sleep, our concentration, our creativity, everything.
No, we have it, but we move it around the week. So, you know, sometimes it might be a Saturday, sometimes it might be a Sunday, and sometimes it might have to be a weekday. But I've noticed that it does help us, and especially with Ella being at home and homeschooling. That's how she's making contact with the outside world through a screen. And it's important, but at the same time, you know, she can be creative and she can get bored and then get creative. So it's creating that room for that to happen.
Definitely. That's the thing that I've been really noticing, like the time between stopping doing something. So like, I don't know, I go out and water the plants and then doing the next thing. There's a gap.
Yes.
But usually in my normal life, there's not this gap of being like, oh, maybe I'll do something next. Maybe I'll just wait. Yeah. And that is so beautiful. And it reminds me of my hike in the sense of when I waited, when I got ill and got dehydrated, and when I waited to walk out again for that kind of moment of like, I'm ready, I want to go.
Yeah.
And it's lovely to have that moment.
Oh my gosh. As I say, it's a gift. It's a gift. But that was the next thing I was going to come on, because I was just going to say how we met. And we met through adventures, but virtually, because we met through the podcast She Explores, wasn't it? And it was because I was on there talking about my mountain swimming in Snowdonia, and you were listening, and I was the first British voice that you might have heard on there. But then you went on afterwards to talk about your walk and tell us about your hike. What was it? Please just tell us about it, because I think that was a meeting at Adventures. Do you not think?
Yeah, for sure.
The outward. But now I'm knowing that the outward is what's out there, but there's so much more going on underneath. So let's just do the outward and then we're going in.
So I was really like lucky, and my boyfriend really encouraged me. We moved up to Scotland in 2018, I think, in the summer. So we moved out of London, moved up to Scotland, and in between that, I had some time off work and hiked around the Welsh coast from Chepstow up to Chester. And I did 570 miles of that. And I had a bivvy bag and slept out when I could. I had a tent and stayed in campsites when I needed to. I stayed in hostels, and there were some really lovely places I stayed in as well, some nice B&Bs. So it was a real mix, just carrying everything I needed, got to know the country. I learnt Welsh on the way, so when I got up to the north, which is the bit that I really love, was able to just say a few words to different people, and it was really amazing and beautiful. And it was just an incredible experience, and I'm so lucky and so glad that I had the chance to do it.
Is it because you feel that you've got an affinity with Wales, or you think it's just a beautiful country? Why Wales?
Wales has become like a special place to me, a spiritual home, I guess. I went there a lot as a kid. We went youth hosteling and just on day walks. And I think we also stayed in like some farmhouses and remember collecting the eggs. So it's part of my childhood, and I sort of rediscovered it as an adult. Like I got my heart broken, and my mum gave me 200 quid to get gear and to go on a climbing course in Wales, which is amazing. And I went, and it was just the beginning of healing, just the beauty of the place and the people as well, the like warmth of people. And since then it kind of became my runaway place, kind of get the train from Euston to Bangor and down into Snowdonia. And I did my first solo hike there around the Llyn Peninsula. I can't do my double L's. But that was amazing. It was really, really beautiful. And I also met my partner on Bangor Station platform as well.
Okay, Okay, all right.
So yeah,
So,
we really wanted to get to know the place, and also it really reminds me of Sri Lanka in some weird ways. So just it being so lush and green, it's like the same size. And I think there's also a connection, like with my heritage, there's a strong Baptist connection. Like one of my like ancestors was the first Sri Lankan Baptist minister, and obviously there's a real tradition of that kind of free church in Wales as well.
interesting. So, while you're doing this walking, do you find that your mind switches off and you drop into your body? Is it that does it have that meditative effect on you walking?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely find I think there's two kinds of people, like the people that are more naturally inclined to the ground or people that are more naturally inclined to the sky.
Okay, yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
definitely like more of the like daydreamy ones. And walking really over time just helps me to get out of that and to move down to the ground or just connect the two places. And also just the quiet. Um, I just find after a few days of walking and just being on my own, just can hear my inner voice, and like a poem or words will come to me, and that's a really, really lovely thing.
Say a poem or a word. Can you access your creative vibes while you're out in nature? Is it more easily accessible when you're out there in nature? So you said that you write poetry, prose. What else? What else do you feel that you do which is creative in your life that is maybe fed by this relationship with nature?
I write songs, I sing, and I definitely sing when I'm walking, like silly songs, like "Be kind to your toes." That was a song I made up once.
I can see that as a chant, really, because that is important.
It really helped me through that day.
But you know that idea you're saying, be kind, to your toes. That's you in your body, but at the same time you're in your body as an internal. Do you feel that you're more also aware of the world around you, like the small flower or the looming hill? Is there that heightened sense of awareness that feeds into maybe those creative juices sort of thing?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's kind of a form of contemplation, I think. And as you say, like those two things of like really small things of just noticing something and being amazed by it, and the kind of real grandeur of mountains and sea. Yeah, and I think in terms of like I also really love collaging and just picking things up, like sea glass and things like that. It's really fun, and I've had this thought of how amazing it would be to go with a group of people, go on a hike, but really take pictures, take inspiration, and then create something with those colors, with those textures. It would be such a lovely thing to do. But I've yet to do it, but that's something I'd like to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've done it with my relationship with Northumberland National Park, and it was a case of walking up. Well, we went there to the crags, the Peel Crags, from Steel Rig up to there, along the Hadrian's Wall, and I took a group of women, and it was for International Women's Day this year. And we started in the classroom to get some inspiration and share our stories, and then we did that walk. And while we were walking, we're encouraged to, if we wanted to sit anywhere, to just have a sit spot and just enjoy the view. And we were writing out there. We had some little prompts out there. Bring something back if you wanted to come back in. And then we also just shared while we were out there, sort of like a circle. And I felt that they would probably say things out there that they felt that they were maybe limited about saying inside. So yeah, we had more planned before the lockdown, but hopefully we can get back out there. is this creative vibe been in there since you've been a child? You know, you mentioned about a rural upbringing. Do you think this has been just a what do you call it, a development, an advancement of some interest or some inspiration that was stirred while a child, and then you've continued with that within the rest of your life? Is it important that you have that connection as a child to have for later life? What do you think?
I think like creativity's always been a part of my life. My sister's always very. I've got an older sister, and she's always like had things that she's done, like crochet or salt, like making things out of salt dough. And I think she's more inclined to mastering things than I am. But I've always been a bit of a dabbler of just liking to cut and stick and just enjoying color and form and words and yeah.
Yeah. I use the term creatrix, and that's just someone who makes, who's creative in all of their ways of life, just using their hands or using their bodies or using their inspiration just to create. And it's not a case of like they're thinking of what they're creating at the end. It's that process or that journey to doing the practice. Thinking about your upbringing with your family, and you've got a rich history, a rich legacy that feeds into you. Maybe because I've been reading these post-traumatic slave syndrome and how we have trauma and memories within our DNA. And I'm not applying this to your family, but the idea that something might be in your DNA that gives you that relationship to the land, gardening or farming, that idea. Do you feel that there's some kind of, I don't know, an unseen presence that might be weaving through your life to make you open towards these things or galvanize towards them? What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I guess there's like three aspects to my background or my ancestry, and one is like being Sinhalese and being from Sri Lanka, but also just my family were quite Anglo-Sinhalese as well, like when the British came and probably sucked up to the British, but and understandably probably to keep their land or whatever it was. Like, I'm certainly not criticizing it, but there's definitely a part, that strand of like aping the British within my own heritage. And then there's the Buddhist. We would have been Sinhala Buddhist because pretty much all Sinhalese people are traditionally Buddhist. I think I've said that right. And when, again, I think it was when the Dutch came, we converted to Christianity. So again, there's that theme. And I think in Buddhism, certainly when I've been to temples, what I've really loved is like the sensuality of like the little candle lights and like people bringing flowers, and it's just lush, it's really gorgeous. And that's like the complete opposite to sort of Protestantism, which doesn't have any of that nature within it. And then the other side is we're the Govigama caste, which were the farmers in, so I definitely think that's within my genes somewhere, that kind of farming instinct and love of that. But I also know that we were kind of low country coastal people, sort of around Gaul kind of areas. So I definitely think that kind of connection to the sea and loving the sea is somewhere part of my DNA.
I do think that is part of my DNA, the sea, and I think it's just because my ancestors came across the sea. They survived the sea, many crossings, and I do feel like when I go back to the sea as regular as I can, that I'm going back to maybe listen to my ancestors or to gain some strength from them. So yeah, I can totally relate to that. But you mentioned religion, and I'm not here to cause offense, but I don't see you as a religious person. And you mentioned that it's more of a spirituality that you have, and this is how your relationship with nature is being, I don't know, felt or is known in a way. And I'm interested to know, what do you mean by spiritual or spirituality, rather than being religious? Can you enlighten me there? Because I say I'm more spiritual than religious, in the sense, we were brought up to be Church of England and say our prayers and have the Bible and that sort of thing. But I think because of life experiences I've had, I've turned away from a God, and I'm more towards, I do worship the earth, or worship goddesses of the spiritual realm and the earth. And I do also believe that we all have goddesses within inside us. So talk to me. Sorry, I'm trying about that's how I say I'm spiritual. But how do you say your spirituality in relationship with nature?
Well, I mean, I think it is important to me that both the Buddhism and the Christianity are my roots, like, because it's been such a strong part of my family and lineage. Like, there wasn't just one Baptist minister, there were like lots of Baptist ministers. So that is something I take pride in, which doesn't mean that I equally don't have a sort of traditional faith, but it's important to me that root is there and that I take pride in it. And I think through Christian meditation, for me, like, links those two things together, the Buddhist side and the Christian side, and I really appreciate that. I think for me, I've always felt closer to God, or closer to the divine, whatever it is. And I words aren't always helpful and in codifying things, but when I'm in nature, I've always just felt, let's say, a sense of joy. Even if things are challenging and it's a horrible storm, there's still that sense of joy. And I think when I was growing up in the church, I was always really drawn to St. Francis, like having church with all the animals and creatures. And I didn't really find that within the church, and I found that kind of a bit sad. I feel like we never talked about, we did have Harvest Festival, but we never really talked about the environment. We never really, had a conversation about, why is everyone driving to church when they don't need to? And this is part of something bigger, and it should be part of our spirituality. And then I kind of had a big crisis, I guess, where I went to a thing called Peace School, and it was a group of Christians doing a summer school and weekends together, exploring the meaning of shalom, which is kind of wider than peace and kind of wholeness. And we were just exploring shalom and playfulness and all sorts of shalom and nature. We were in lovely places, going for walks, and there I kind of met people that were Christians, but that didn't mean they didn't question things. I think there's a difference between, I'm going to say, liberal and conservative. And there was an openness and to kind of mystery and exploring, and over time, a load of things came to a head where I'd moved from being Baptist to C of E to Mennonite to Quaker. And we did a thing there where we talked about, you had to stand where you were, whether you were an exclusive Christian, so believing there's one way, inclusive Christian, believing that way is embedded within all the traditions, or a universalist, and I remember being sort of on the edge of inclusive and universalist, and it just made me think, what is it that's holding me to Christianity? And yeah, I had a kind of a little bit of a breakdown with somebody. I grew up in a context where it was, you were unequally yoked if you were with someone who wasn't a Christian. So I obviously went and fell in love with someone that was,
Yeah.
and this was like a massive issue for me trying to grapple with. And they'd asked me about homosexuality, and I knew what I'd been taught, and it did not feel like my experience of the divine. And I got really ill, and then I remember after this, I went to Hampstead Heath, and I just had this amazing feeling of peace, of being like, or being told, your concept of me, I'm so much bigger than your concept of me. And that kind of allowed me to get rid of the Christian label in my life, which doesn't mean the root's not there, but the label kind of went.
Yes.
And it kind of gave me a load of freedom to kind of explore. And then I was really getting into my menstrual cycle and like being excited that it connects with the moon, and just noticing there's an innate spirituality, like when I bleed, to let go, like there's just an opportunity there, and it's just there. It's
and you
not
can do it
outside.
every month as well.
And and then I was thinking there's all these seasons and the solstices, and I have to say, I thought I'd discovered something. I was like, I've discovered this new form of spirituality. And then I Googled around and was like, oh my God, people have been doing this for years, like following the moons and
but that shows that
the equinoxes.
You had been in touch with your own inner wisdom and intuition, and that's what you were following. And that should give you strength that, I'm on this path. Others are on it with me, and it's still keep that joy of that.
For sure.
But
it was
totally.
just hilarious because I just thought I'd invented this amazing kind of thing that makes sense.
But that just it's your inner goddess. You're the goddess, We all have that, yeah. So
since then I've always been using my cycle as a spiritual path. I've been using the seasons and the quarter points and the half points of the years, and I was doing it on my own, doing some journaling and thinking about what I wanted to let go of or what I'm grateful for, and just using the energy of the moment. And then I started sharing it with a group of friends, and I think we've now had a women's circle for about 4 years. There's about 8 of us, and we've just met every equinox, every solstice, done some journaling, done some artwork, been out in nature, held each other accountable for things we said we were going to do or not do, and just held each other. And it's been a really magical thing, and we've always bring something from nature for the altar space, and it's lovely to see what people bring. And then more recently I've been celebrating all the festivals with 2 other women, and they're both British Sri Lankans. One's slightly younger than me, one's about, I don't know, quite a lot older than me. And what's been lovely about that is we've also brought the Sinhalese element into our celebrations, or the Buddhist element, and just this understanding into what we've been doing, and that's been really exciting.
Oh, it sounds so beautiful and magical and nurturing and healing. Yeah. And it just epitomizes that idea of the sacred in the everyday. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be somewhere on high or unreachable, or that you have to jump through hoops or be enough you are ready enough to be experiencing this in your everyday. And it's not just outward, it's within the body as well. It's that embodiment and that connection, that oneness. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And, you know, stuff that I didn't even know about you, you know? And I suppose it's, I don't know. They say now that we're going towards an ecocentric culture because we have to. But it comes down to the individuals, and also there's groups that have to do it, and you know the majority would have to. But it has been up until now and still is majority egocentric, and it is that individual, you know, produce, go, 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 go. And because of that, people are not showing their true selves or their vulnerabilities, or are afraid to open up and share a lot of things that are their true core, especially if you're not sure of like how they're going to react or where they're coming from. But there is that, I don't know, that joy or that relief to be able to be within a circle of fellow women that get it and who are on the same plane, and that is a place where you can let down your burdens that you're carrying around in the rest of society, the rest of your days, if you've got that safe circle. So I totally relate to that, and I admire that, and also a little bit jealous about that, because you know they are unique places, and once you've got them, you do want to hold on to them, definitely. So you mentioned that sometimes you bring things in from nature to an altar, and do these tie into the different seasons in the sense of, you know, if it's, we've just had May, which was Beltane, is that how we pronounce it, Beltane?
Yes.
The coming light coming back, and then we've got the summer solstice. So what did you gather then? What did you bring then? I mean, I'm not wanting for like secrets or anything, you know, or betray confidences. This meeting yesterday, which was about wild food and foraging, and they were saying like the hawthorn bush is totally a May flowering bush, and this is the prime time to get the leaves probably before the flower, but once you get the ones to do flower, you can make some nice teas sort of thing. And they said that the other name for the hawthorn was Maythorn because it comes in May. So was that something that was at the altar, or was something else there?
I think that we hadn't really gone out, to be honest, like when it came to Beltane.
Mm.
And in fact, we went, that was the first time we did go out. So we didn't have an altar that time, but usually it kind of really depends. Like I've got a couple of Druid Oracle cards, like animals and plants,
Mm-hmm.
and that's always a lovely thing to just select and sort of just discuss that. This is maybe there our energy or something we can connect with for this time, and also I think there's something really important to me about, there's my ancestry and my heritage, and then there's the place I live now, and understanding like the local beliefs and stories and symbolism is really important. So that's kind of a physical thing that we might put on the altar. I actually put one of my partner's hand planes on for in bulk because it's all around like Bridget and creativity, yes. And I think she's some like craft. Yeah, so I put that on there. So yeah, really just, and I think at the moment I've got some like just a little branch of oak leaves that I picked up. It just sort of depends.
These women that you have met, or that you meet in person, that you circle with, how did you meet them? Is it a case of like you knew them in life or from work? Just a case of anyone who's listening thinking, I want to start my own circle. How do I go about it? You know, so it would be good to know that sort of pointers. Was it a Facebook group?
No, I mean, it literally was like friends from different places and going, hey, this is something that I do on my own, and I wondered if you would be interested. And I'm very grateful to them for their sort of tolerance and openness to being like, okay, let's do this. Yeah. And yeah, there's been a core group over time, and there's been a few people that have come in and out. But yeah, it's just that's kind of all it was, really. I have to say I was like quite influenced by Jamie Ridler. I don't know if you know her.
Yes, I do.
Like got like prompts and things that I've used in the past, and that we've sort of used fairly similar prompts for whenever looking back and looking forward whenever we meet. And I've sort of like we do the like vision boarding at the winter solstice one, but we do it in January. So I've definitely been quite influenced by some of her work. But it's when I moved up to Scotland, I stopped leading it, and then it went, instead of it always being at my home, it went to different people's homes, and so different people have also brought their own things. So somebody was doing like a cartooning course, and we did a bit of mindful drawing.
Nice.
Like I think she did it with Buddha doodles, and like we did a bit of that as part of our thing. So it's taken on a total life of its own. I really didn't expect it to become what it has. It went on without me, and then I got included back in when I moved back, kind of thing. And yeah, it's just that's kind of what is spiritual, is when it becomes bigger than you. You just have the spark, and then it just goes where it goes.
It just goes and inspires and grows and morphs, and yeah.
And then there's some people that are really, as I say, I think I'm much more from the head down into the earth rather than the other way around. And then there's some people in that group that really know about plants, that whenever they bring something, they'll bring like dried lemon verbena things from their garden, and we'll have that as a tea. And so all those sorts of, and that's what I love about this kind of really earthy spirituality. It's got the head stuff. It might have some goddesses. It might have symbology of animals and plants. But it's also then there's this embodied sense of, like, for instance, yesterday we made elderflower cordial because I just picked some and we came back and let's do this. And so there's this like real practical earthy element to it, and I really love that.
Yeah, and it is, as I keep saying, but it's part of the everyday. You know, you're learning it, but then it's not staying in a book or it's actually being brought into life, and it's being practiced, and it's being part of your life. And that's such a beautiful way to live, being connected that close with nature. And I hope you gave thanks when you asked for that, because they say you've got to give thanks, and because it's a gift.
And be gentle with it, and like nature's is wonderful. There's a real wonderful bounty, and I think what, like, it is, again, it's about the balance of like, what do we give to nature and what do we take from nature? And no, you don't go and pick everything that's there. It's just the wrong mentality. It's not a long-term sustainable mentality.
Practice,
or gratitude. And I remember seeing ages ago this film about the honey hunters in Nepal, and I really loved it because before they had to hunt honey once a year. It was really difficult, and they needed it for their nutrition. But before they did it, they would say these prayers and say, like, this is why I need to do this, and I'm sorry about it, and we're only going to take what we need. And why not live more gently, really?
Yeah, because it is a case of still the idea of, well, we're in this current situation because of our abuse and destroying of nature and ecosystems. And also we still have that attitude that it's there as escape, like I'm going there to escape, and that is a selfish way of doing it. I'm just going to go there and see what I can get out of it, ride this wave really fast sort of thing, or hike this mountain and leave my rubbish. It's not making that connection, that close connection, which is,
and there's no intimacy in that as well. It's very much like that we're not part of nature, and and it's kind of go back. That reminds me of what I was saying before about this other sense of time, and this is natural time, and like just being able to spend so much time in my garden. It's very porous, and that I know, like, there's there's the gangsters of the hood, there's the magpies and the crows, there's the little birds that are really sweet, the kind of goldfinches and the great tits. Then there's the parakeets that are obviously the outsiders that shouldn't be there, which they don't really know.
But why are they there? Is their usual place of feeding no longer available, you know?
Yeah, totally. And then there's a little squirrel, and it's like this lovely porous thing that this is their world and this is my world, and they're
sharing it.
We're in the same space. It's not two divided existences.
No. We're connected here. We're having a relationship. That's it. We're relating to each other. Oh, beautiful. Oh, awesome. Before I let you go, because I know that we're coming up to time and an hour here, we've been chatting. Let me know what you got planned for the future outdoors. I mean, you've been enjoying your gardens. Have you walked further out? Have you got any hikes planned? What do you see on the horizon for you and nature?
So we have been, I've been taking a long lunch on Fridays and going for like a long 2-hour circuit. And it's really lovely because we're just on the edge of the greenbelt. So you can see like horses and cows. And what's great about, well, I find exciting about where I live is it's where all the drover routes kind of came back into London.
Yes.
So from all the beautiful places into London, and that's kind of a lovely thing. And I'd love to walk some of those routes. We've also been going to this ice cream farm on our way, and I spoke to her on Friday and was like, I know this might sound weird, but do you ever get people volunteering with the cows? And she said they do, and that she could put me on the list. And that is sort of a bit of a lifelong dream, and I really love cows and have had some amazing experiences with them on hikes. And my dad also just always wanted to have a herd of cows when he retired. He hasn't been able to, but it's definitely something that's there. So that's maybe on the horizon. Really just getting into sort of blending herbs and teas and mixing stuff and making things, experimenting with that. I did my lowland leader course last year, so I think I'm looking to go on and do like my hill and moorland leader.
Yes, I was looking at that, and it's only a 2 or 3 day thing. It's an intense thing.
Yeah,
and it's not too bad financially wise either, but that gives you more of a scope too, because like, you know, there's a lot of hills and moorlands around, isn't it? It'd be silly not to have the lowland and then, okay, we've got to stop here, we can't go any further, there's a hill. Can't go, it's out of remit sort of thing. So yeah, that would be good, to eventually lead your own groups out in there.
Definitely. And but my workplace has an office in the Isle of Man, so I'm thinking about doing that as a coastal path would be a really lovely coastal path to do, and then meet some people from work. I've got the dream of having chickens. I don't know whether we can have it yet or not, or we might have to wait a few years. And then the other thing is just getting involved in, you know, as I said, like the church hasn't really, I haven't seen that nature theme, but recently I've seen this thing around Forest Church and getting out in nature as church, which makes so much sense to me. And it's sort of kind of, I think I've been doing it all my life or for all my adult life anyway. But I think that would be a fun thing to sort of connect into, that just being out in nature with the desire to be open to the spiritual.
That's beautiful. Lovely. Well, I'm going to let you go. But I must say, it's been lovely connecting with you on a deeper level, and finding out more about you. And I am so grateful that you agreed to come on to this new podcast and share.
Also just thank you for the opportunity. Like, I thought it would take me 20 minutes to plan, to think through things, and it literally took me all of last Sunday. but at such depth to really notice like how everything weaves together.
The strands, it is. And I'm so pleased that you gave it the time, not just for the show, but for yourself, because that's something that feeds into your own sense of self and and love of self. It's like, you know, this is me, and this is what I do, and it's beautiful, and it's wonderful, and it shows as well, because it comes out in your own spirit, your own light that you share with the world. So I thank you for that. I really do. Thank you. I hope we can meet again at some point, you know, when this social distancing isn't social distancing.
Yeah.
But until then, stay safe and stay
Thank
well.
you.
Yeah.
You too.
Take care.